Hey guys, it's Andrew McKenna from Global Associates. I've been in probably the energy industry for about 23 years in various different formats, starting as a BMS engineer and then into smart buildings. And in all of these different sectors, and it's not just our sector, by the way, it's every sector, energy runs through everything, whether you're in retail, whether you're in corporate, whatever type of industry you're in, energy's obviously always played a big factor. I think one of the biggest challenges when I think back, when I was kind of doing energy management, has always been a clear lack of visibility, kind of understanding how my building's performing, not just in my sector, but actually against other buildings in any sector. If it's a similar kind of building, I just want to understand, is what I'm doing right? Can I improve it anymore? Or is it about as good as it can get? And there's never really been anything that kind of gives you that clarity and sense on things. Yes, there's definitely things like the benchmarking tools like SIBC, I know Carbon Trust as one as an example. But the problem with that is you're limited to what is in their portfolio, right? And so that's usually UK based. One of the things that I'm about to show you is pretty exciting for a number of reasons, but primarily because it opens up not just buildings within the UK, but actually across the entire globe, right? And so if you're an energy manager or you're someone who has a direct input or even indirect input with energy, this one's probably going to be for you. Okay, so starting off, what is it? This is our global EMS platform. I'm going to start by showing you a client which we done a load of work for. Load of efficiency improvements, solar, we integrated everything, lighting, access control, security, integrated air conditioning, anything. We installed a load of LoRaWAN sensors and wireless IoT sensors that really give us a lot more information about things like footfall, how many people are in the space, occupancy detection, if a window's open or closed, all of these kind of different things we've overlaid. And so I'm going to show you a few different examples. This example is what really what good looks like, right? But I will show you more of an example where there's a lot more improvements that can be made. So what is it, right? Let's just dive in. So as you can see, look, first thing that strikes you when you look at this platform is just how clean and crisp it looks in terms of like the information. It's a dashboard, right, that's showing us an estate level overview. If we start at the top here, we can zoom in and we can see what looks like just green plots on a map, right? But what these signify is the size of energy output against key metrics, right, within a benchmark of not just the UK, but any building that's on our portfolio across the entire globe, right? Whether that's in the USA, whether it's in Northern Italy, Spain, France. And the thing that's so important about that is actually, the climate in, say, Northern Italy is probably quite similar to that of what's in the UK. And so ideally, if we've got a similar building on our portfolio that we want to measure, where same size, same climate, same type of activity that goes on there, ideally I want to know how am I performing, not just in the UK, but actually over in, say, Italy or Spain or France or USA or whatever it would be. And so that's what this kind of platform gives us the power to do. This estate specifically is in the retail sector. They are multi-use buildings, so warehouse sections, retail section, office section and back office and stuff like that. So a real mixed use case of what these are. You can see here on our performance score, right, that it's operating really well, right? We'd expect that so because we've done a lot of work on this. So this is like 96 out of 100. What does that mean? Well, that means, if 100 is the most efficient it can be, generally there's always going to be a slight room for improvement, but there's a 2% efficiency score, which means we can improve these buildings even further with some other ideas and how we can kind of do that. Kind of moving down into the scope, what this gives us is a ranking by building in terms of kind of how the most efficient. So in terms of the bottom is there's nothing you can do pretty much to make it any more efficient versus this one. So the less efficient a building is, the higher the ranking it would be. So for example, Tamworth here is one we'd want to focus on to see if we can drive some more efficiency savings on that one here. Then we have the cluster by efficiency improvement potential. These are based on 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, so on and so forth. And ideally, if you've got a building that's or a portfolio that's operating well, then you'd expect to see them in that 0 to 20% column. If these were different, we'd see different size kind of scales here as we'd kind of move through it. And this one here, this is the efficiency status, right? And similarly, as you'd expect, with an efficiency state, you want to see that your plots are in the lower section of these. If they start to move out into these kind of fair, inefficient, poor and bad areas, obviously that's a telltale sign that your building specifically rates way poorer than a very similar building that's in an entirely different place. But remember, it's just because it's in a different place doesn't mean it doesn't fall into that criteria, because there's 11 different nodes that go into our efficiency scores. I'm not going to go over them all, but to pick a few, it's size of building, right? So in terms of footprint, climate, so whereabouts, what's the climate? So if it's a similar climate, that would also go into the mix. Footfall, as an example, how many people can occupy the space? How long does the building stay in operation? I.e., is it 8 till 5? Is it 24/7? These are different metrics that all go into our efficiency scores that really provide much more clarity. And then the data itself, is the data correct? Is the daily profile summate to the total of the monthly profile? Have you got gaps in data? All of these different things go into an anomalized database that picks out all of these that match that same criteria and then represents that as a score. So we know the data is really powerful, right? Kind of moving down in terms of the key metrics. So this is just giving us some information about consumption, the savings potential, and obviously the efficiency score here on the right. As I said before about the data quality, that bit is really important, right? We don't want to be able to shout from the rooftops that we're doing really well on a building if data is not correct. And so the data quality piece just tells us the information is fine. You may have a warning here or two there where you might have like one day data that's being missed. That's acceptable, right? But what you don't want is low or average data quality, because that's obviously going to give the confidence in the ability to show what you're doing to be much lower. Then we have portfolio insights, and we're going to dive into our entire estate shortly and show not just what good looks like, but how this compares when you've got other information as well. One of the things I particularly like is the aspect ratio that gives us the surface of kilowatts per square hours against the square footage, right? And so you can see here, like this location in Milton Keynes as an example is really efficient. It's 1.4 kilowatt hours per square foot over a year. Moving a bit further on, we've got Leicester, which is 1.8. Then we have, say, Basildon, which is, 2.3. Over to the worst performing on this, which is 4.9 kilowatt hours. What you can also do is go directly into a site, right? So I can click in, say, Stoke as an example. And what Stoke will give me is, when it loads up, the individual site by site, right? So you can see here, results confidence high. That's the information that goes into the data quality piece. Is the location right? Is the size of the building being accurately described in terms of its square foot? Running hours, have you got any gaps in data? All of that stuff really goes into this confidence score, which is really what you want to be. You want to be at the highest level, right? Kind of moving down into the individual piece, which is really powerful as well. As you can see here, look, across the entire anomalized database, thousands of sites on the portfolios, you can see that the average for all of these metrics is around 301,000 kilowatt hours. The best cluster of buildings is around 117,000 kilowatt hours, but this building specifically is 60,000. So green, very small dot, really powerful, really good information showing us that on this building particularly, it's doing really, really well. And you can see here there's an evolution map over time, which is a kind of a 12-month rolling tally. You can see you have expected sectors average, which is dark blue. You have on average range, which is kind of that lighter blue, and then lighter blue again is the lower than average, the sector's average. So you can see here for these kind of multi-use buildings, we know generally we're performing really well. We have one little anomaly there, which was in July, where we were on average. But for all of the months, we were way below the average, which is exactly what you want to see. And then kind of looking at some of the information here, so you can see as a snapshot, Thursday tends to be the day with most utility used in that specific building. And usually around 4 o'clock is where you start to see that there's more use of that specific hour. And so as an energy manager, you know, these are things where, okay, well, we know where our worst performing day is. We know what our worst performing hour is. Let's focus on just driving utility down at that. What can we do? Is it behavioral change? It's just good information that you typically wouldn't see if you're just looking at energy data on a bar chart or a graph. And just, I think a lot of the time it's about simplicity over complexity with these things. You don't want to be overly complex with too much information, because ultimately you just don't do anything with that data. So it's a really powerful way to do it. And then what you can also do is also just download a nice quick snapshot report, which kind of covers the same information but in a more contextualized way, right? If I click on this, you can see here, nice and easy, we can see here, you know, this is the report for Stoke. We can see the efficiency of efficient buildings in this sector is around 117. We can see that our building is around 60k, and we can see that the average in this estate is or in this sector is 301. Again, that information Thursday around 4 o'clock seems to be the most utility. So really nice, clean, in your face, not too difficult to understand, but really powerful data that shows you exactly what you want to see, so you can affect change, right, based on this data. Next, we're going to dive into the site-wide, our complete estate, to show a little bit about how not so good looks like, and so you see in a second for that one. Okay, so as you can see here, stark difference from what we saw, what good looks like, right? You can see across the entire estate, there's red blobs, there's yellow or amber, there's dark green, and all of these plots here, like I said before, signify the difference in energy utility against the benchmarks, right? And so you can see across the estate, it's not really performing too well in terms of the information that we received, right? So 34 out of 100, meaning there's a lot more in terms of you can do in terms of these buildings specifically. And so, you know, as a ranking, you can see kind of the worst performing building in terms of where you can make most efficiency score is on this Firenze building. Obviously, you've got Miami Sports Centre, School of Medicine, Boston building, London building, and like we saw before, where we had all of our data in this efficient column here, you can see a lot more of these have fallen in the inefficient column. And so straight away, as an energy manager or an FM or some sort, if you have any tie-in, you have a big picture look on exactly what's going on your estate and which ones specifically you want to target. And this is goldmine for anyone who kind of just wants that kind of really high level intel to show which buildings are not performing at their greatest. As we kind of move down, we looked at this a bit earlier on, obviously the data quality piece, but we want to focus a little bit on the portfolio insights now. So you can see from start to finish here where the ones that you want to spend most on. You can see this Antwerp office here is the biggest user of energy across the estate. And then a really nice kind of way to visualize sector. So you can see here, these are office-based buildings, these are healthcare, this is hospitality, and we have kind of sports centers, more offices, more type of hospitality, but it's broken down as a tree map, so you can see exactly what's going on in terms of your type of sector. And again, in this consumption ratio piece here, ideally you want to see, if you remember before, I want to show you the good portfolio, it was in and around that kind of 1, 2, 3 kilowatts per square kilowatt hours per square foot. These are all over the place, right? You can see one here that's 346.4 kilowatt hours per square meter. Now, depending upon where you are in the world or what type of portfolio, you might want to use square meter, you might want to use square foot. All of that is obviously adjustable, but you can do these by postal code, city, country code. You can group based on time zone, whether you've got PV on the site, so you only want to benchmark your PV in terms of that footfall and that ratio. And it's just a really good way to kind of show as a high level exactly how your portfolio is performing. Again, similarly to this, if we dive into one, let's dive into, say, this Firenze building, we can see straight away, look, it's 12 out of 100. A lot of improvement can be made on this building. You can see the average building with it for this type of building across the anomalized database is around 47,000 kilowatt hours per annum. This one is orders of magnitude, right? It's 507,000 kilowatts per hour over that entire year. And the best building within that kind of a normalized database, or the best cluster of buildings, is around that 15,000 kilowatt hours per annum. You can see specifically September they used an awful lot of energy. I'm not sure exactly what went on there, but you can see more often than not they massively exceed the sector's average. We can see here again on Thursday tends to be the highest amount of energy, and 1 o'clock in the morning, which is strange, right? 1 o'clock in the morning is where most consumption is used, and so that is a key statistic that you would say, okay, well, based on that alone, that's what we need to focus on. What's going on around that 1 o'clock in the morning hour that gives us that kind of high utility data? And again, we can pull these off as a report, and it's just really, really powerful stuff. How would I approach? Look, if I'm a building owner and I'm an estate owner, how would I approach the way in which I'd think about using this platform? Well, firstly, I'd want the data, right? I would want to get all the information about my estate into the platform, which would be your consumption, could be CSV files, could be integrated directly, could be sent from your utility provider. We can manage all of that. And then just some key statistics: location, whereabouts in the world is the building, what is the size of the state, what's the climate. We just use the local weather API so we know exactly what the climate is. And once we've got those key stats, we just plot that out directly onto the estate, and it gives us that full overview of exactly how your estate is operating. Once you've had time to kind of adjust to that and understand what are your worst performing buildings, then you move into the second phase, right, which is understanding how the building's performing. What can we do in terms of improving that efficiency? Is it a BMS element? Can we do something with the lighting? Is there an opportunity for solar? And then how do we create a business case around that shows demonstrable output and is tracked all the way through? What I've shown you at this moment in time is really just the kind of surface level. There's so much more to this platform. If this is something that you want to see more of, just let us know, right? You can contact us at sales@global-associates.co.uk. There should be a little link there on the screen that you can access that on, and look forward to reading from you. Hopefully you find this useful. I'll be doing more of these kind of videos, trying to kind of break down each little element in detail. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next one.